Hello, everyone, and welcome to another movie review where we will be discussing Marvel Studios' best project this year, in my opinion, and that will be Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Hello there, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and children.
Now, I just want to say that I have heard some skeptics out there, whether it be TikTok or online, regarding this movie and how it doesn't sit par to the first one. Now, one thing that I want you guys to know and have to remember is this was slated to be, of course, Chadwick Boseman's second solo film as T'Challa and, of course, Black Panther. Unfortunately, we lost uh, Chadwick Boseman, and that's kind of what Ryan Coogler had to work around, and what kind of execution he was going to do, as far as how is he going to make this movie without Chadwick Boseman as the star leading role. Now, if you don't know anything in the story of the original script for this, Chadwick Boseman was actually at home resting, probably during his, of course, needed rest times or periods, and Ryan Coogler sent him the script. Now, when Ryan Coogler sent him the original script, he asked him to go ahead and read it through. Meanwhile, Chadwick and his wife was discussing on the other end as far as how confidential it is on whether or not he was going to read it. And he ended up taking the nap that day and not actually reading it. I can't remember if it was actually the day after or a few days after, or even a week, where Chadwick had actually passed away. So he never actually had an opportunity to read the original script. Now, with Ryan Coogler, of course, he kind of had to work around Chadwick's death, unfortunately, and kind of be able to provide what he was originally signed up and contractual obligation had to do. Now, right off the bat, as far as stipulations go, as far as all the criticisms go, you have to remember that this film actually has to deal with many things. That is not only a second iteration, aka a sequel to the Black Panther movie, which was iconic on its own, but you also have to set up a anti-hero, of course, background, and set up that character Namor, which of course Namor has been around before Marvel Comics ever was a thing, before Marvel actually had the title of Marvel Comics. And really, in the comic book series, he is considered the first mutant. So this movie did have to set up a whole story arc and setting up that character for future projects. Not only that, again, going back to the fact that this was a sequel, also have to set up the predecessor to Black Panther, but also have to set up a new character too, and that's Riri Williams. If you don't know who Riri Williams is, you can find her in the comic books. Her first appearance was during the Civil War, or prologue of Civil War 2, of Iron Man, I believe. Invincible Iron Man, I believe that's number 13, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, we get her appearance in that comic book. So this film had to do many of those things, all while trying to be coherent in the storytelling process. So right off the bat, I just want to say that the Tita Wright, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who played Shuri, Lupita, not even going to try to pronounce that last name, but Nakia, of course, Winston, who plays M'Baku. M'Baku, I feel, has done a lot of humor elements to this movie, but hats off to, of course, Angela Bassett. And a lot of people think that she deserves an Oscar for her performance, which I'm not arguing against, but performance equal to it is, of course, the actress Tita Wright, who played Shuri, deserves an Oscar for this. If, of course, Angela Bassett gets one as well, because her performance was outstanding in this, as far as the sibling and the dynamic that she had to go through, and who she is as far as the last time we saw her through her brother's death, and who she becomes to be. Now, don't worry, no spoilers. This is just my interpretation of the film and trying to be spoiler free as possible, just only because of the fact that I want you guys to experience it. Now, Namor, who's played by Tanak Huerta, of course, again, could be pronouncing that last name very horribly, but he plays Namor. Now, when it comes to Namor, in the comic book series, he is the king of Atlantis. Again, he is the original mutant, and he actually predates Aquaman. Now, what a lot of people think is, a lot of the Marvel enthusiasts, all the fanboys are going to be upset about, of course, his origin. Now, the thing is when it comes to fanboys and being upset, they don't care if the origin, the skill sets, or the abilities of the characters are done well or have done outright as far as made it better. But we do get upset in circumstances where it's not done right, or it's not done correctly, or it just doesn't make sense. In this case with Namor, he is not an Atlantean, as it's very much Aztec history within the Mexican culture. Now, with that, again, completely different than his comic book origins, but it's done well and it makes sense. It's very well done, and I'm looking forward to that adaptation of that character for future films to come. The actor also nails it. When he needs to be serious, he's serious. And at some point, he becomes a loving character as well, where you can sympathize with him too and his cause. Now, again, M'Baku, funny dude throughout the whole film. Now, Okoye, you still feel for her. She has a lot more character development in this film than she did the other previous films. And that goes again with Shuri. It becomes with her mother too. Everett Ross, obviously, you know that he's in the film. He does really well. A little bit of character development as far as something that we didn't know about him actually plays out to this movie. And then I have to give it up to Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri Williams. She does an amazing, and she also, in some cases, steals the show of the actual film itself. She does a wonderful job playing that character and the development, and she's so smart too. Though I will say, I don't remember her being in college. I thought she was always a kid in the comics, but of course, you guys can prove me on whether or not if I'm wrong. But in this film, she is, of course, in college, and a great predecessor to, of course, Iron Man 2, which is done in the comics too. And frankly, she is Iron Man, or Tony Stark is actually her AI as well. So overall, the story development has done very well what Ryan Coogler had to do. Of course, Ryan Coogler directed it. He also written it alongside Joe Cole, also helped direct or write the screenplay as well. So the story process was very well done with everything that they needed to cram in and make it coherent. Now, a lot of individuals probably will say that there are slow points in the movie, which there are, but it's because it's the storytelling and the process that leads you to where it needs to go or sets up a higher character arc for later on as far as series as well. Now, could we have done without Riri? Yes. But at the same time, it's just like how Black Panther was. This movie is setting up just not for you and I, but individuals and kids that are going to go see the movie too, something that they can see in themselves. But overall, as far as action goes, there is some action sequences go in this film. I'll be honest, not as good as the first one, but it does do it justice. As far as the fight sequence with Namor at the very end, of course, I'm not giving out who becomes Black Panther in this film, but it's very done well as well. And overall, just very cinematically beautiful too. CGI was pretty good too. There was a few moments where it kind of was a little steadily not as bad as She-Hulk, though. We'll say that. But overall, it was very well done. It was a beautiful film. Ryan Coogler did an amazing job. All the actors and actresses does an amazing job too. They do a tribute to, of course, Chadwick Boseman, both in the opening credits and throughout the film too. So I mean, they do very well with what they had to do, as well as pay homage to Chadwick himself. So that's my 2 cents on it. I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed it. Out of all the movies that came out this year, as far as Marvel goes, this is something that I could keep on watching, just like the original Black Panther. Now, is it better than the original Black Panther? No, but it's still a very well filmed that if you enjoy the first one, you are really going to enjoy this one. Honestly, me personally, it may not be as good as the first one, but I can see myself watching this more than I watched the first one. I know it's kind of weird and it's kind of odd, but that's just how I felt because it could have been the pacing, it could have been the story development, but overall, beautifully well done. And I hope that Ryan Coogler continues to do Black Panther movies because overall, he nails it every single time. But, what are you guys' thoughts? Have you seen it? Have you not seen it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of the soundtrack? Because it is a little different than the first film too. But overall, leave the comments, subscribe on all social platforms, including this channel down below. And of course, we'll see you next time when we go ahead and go over Weird Al Yankovic.